So, hey everyone, Dr. Michael Breus, the sleep doctor here. I'm here with an old and dear friend. He's not old, but he's an old friend. My good buddy, Hal Elrod, who is the author. You can't have not heard of his book, The Miracle Morning. Hal and I have been friends for quite a long time. I think I was even in your documentary on.
Yeah, you definitely were.
Yep. And believe it or not, Hal and I have had some controversial conversations before, which we're going to talk a little bit about here. We're just going to have some fun. Also, to be fair, I think that The Miracle Morning is probably one of the most influential books for morning routines that's out there. And that has been out there for, when was it first published, Hal?
12/12/12 to December 12th, 2012.
Well, that's awesome. So we've got a book now that's been out for 12 years. And it's still influencing people left and right. And you've even done some pretty cool things in terms of like the miracle morning for this type of person or the miracle morning for that type of person. So number one, thank you for your contribution to the morning and realizing that morning routines matter. Right. And we can be controversial on when you do them and what you do, but we both would agree that morning routines are an important part of every day. And I just wanted to say, number one, thank you for doing that. But also, how did you come to develop the whole idea of the miracle morning? Because as soon as I heard it, I was like, that's genius.
Yeah. It was a very organic process of my own personal growth. So 2008, the U.S. economy crashed, and I crashed with it. I had just hit Hall of Fame with my career in sales, and then I moved on to be an entrepreneur and start my own coaching business. And a year and a half into that, it was going great. And then all of a sudden, the economy crashes, and I lose over half my clients, half my income. I stopped paying my mortgage. I can't afford, groceries. I mean, I was really at a low point in my life. Yeah. And this 6-month downward spiral led to me listening to a Jim Rohn audio that a friend recommended. And
I love
a single quote from Jim Rohn, he's influenced so many lives. Jim Rohn said, "Your level of success in every area of your life will rarely exceed your level of personal development." And when I heard him say that, I quantified it. I went, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, we all want level 10 success in every area of life. Level 10 health, finances, you name it. And then I had to be honest with myself and ask, what's my level of personal development? And I define that for anybody listening, because that's a vague kind of definition. Your level of personal development is you can measure it based on what are the daily rituals and routines, personal development rituals and routines that enable you to level up every day and become a better version of who you were the day before. And when I was honest with myself, Michael, it was like I'm a 2 or a 3. Like I was in such desperation financially that every waking moment went to trying to figure out how to make money, and it wasn't working.
Yep.
So long story short, I'm going to go figure out what the world's most successful people do for personal development, and I'm going to create the ultimate personal development ritual. And I assembled 6 of the most timeless, proven practices. And then it was, but wait, when am I going to do this? I don't have extra time. Right. And I'm looking at all parts of the day. Evening, nah, I'm tired. Afternoon, nah, I'm busy. Morning, I'm not a morning person. But it was really clear that how you start your day sets the tone, the context, and the direction for how you are able to show up the rest of the day.
Agreed.
So to put a bow on it, I woke up the next morning. I did all 6 practices. 2 months later, I had doubled my income at the height of the Great Recession in 2008. Wow. Based on this morning ritual, and we can unpack the details of how that happened. Then I taught it to my coaching clients. They all resisted initially, saying, I'm not a morning person.
Right.
I said, neither was I. And then 2 weeks later, 13 out of 14 of the clients said, Hal, the miracle morning is changing my life. And that's when I went, well, wait, if it changed their life and my life and we weren't morning people, I have a responsibility to share this with the world. The Miracle Morning, 3 years later, a book's finally written, it's self-published, and now millions of copies later, it's still my life's work, if you will.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what's cool about it is I think it's going to continue to evolve. Right. Yeah. And people are going to continue to find new ways to use it. And you're going to find new ways to use it. What were the 6 habits that you had identified?
So they are, for memory's sake, they are organized now into an acronym, which is S.A.V.E.R.S.
Thank God.
S-A-V-E-R-S. Yeah. When I was writing the book, it's funny. I was writing the book and I was frustrated, and my wife caught me in the hallway. She goes, what's wrong? I said, I have these 6 timeless personal development practices, but I got no way to make them cohesive and organized and memorable. And she goes, why don't you get a thesaurus and see if you can swap some of the words and create an acronym? I go, I kissed her on the face. I'm like, you're brilliant. And so we got S for silence. Okay. It's your meditation, your prayer, your breath work, starting your day in peaceful, purposeful silence to elevate your consciousness, gain more clarity, calm your nervous system, lower your cortisol and stress levels, right? The S is silence. The A is for affirmations. And at some point, we got to unpack that because I think that's the most misunderstood form of personal development because it's been taught by self-help gurus. If you want to be wealthy, just say, I am wealthy.
It doesn't work.
Like, it doesn't work that way. And you,
Bro,
you
I've
create
tried
an
it.
internal conflict. Yeah. The V in S.A.V.E.R.S is for visualization. And look no farther than the world's greatest athletes that have they visualize themselves performing at their best before they step on the court. So they mentally rehearse showing up. And we can do that in our family every day, in our work, etc. The E in S.A.V.E.R.S is for exercise. And you have to go to the gym in the morning. This isn't getting your gym clothes on and leaving the house. It's literally 5 to 10 minutes of jumping jacks, push-ups, like moving your body to get the blood and oxygen flowing into your brain and improving your cognitive ability. The R is for reading, right? I think we're all one book away from any area of our life we want to transform. And then the final S in S.A.V.E.R.S is for scribing, which used to be journaling, but the J would have made the acronym awkward. So thankfully I got scribing. And that's just writing down your gratitudes, writing down your highest priority for the day. What are you going to do today? You got 20 items on your to-do list. Before you finish your miracle morning, look at that to-do list and scribe, write out, okay, the number one thing that will move the needle in my life or business today is this thing. And I'm doing that before I move on to the other 19 things on my to-do list.
So first of all, I love this. And I love this because I've been following your advice for quite a while. But here's what's cool about this is what I've been talking about with people for morning routines incorporates almost all of this. But this is such a nice packaged way to think about it. I love the structure with it because I'm a structure kind of guy. And the more structure I have, the easier it is for me to follow. And I'm one of these guys where I can just follow it, and gain from doing that. So number one, for all of the folks out there listening, this structure is fantastic. So I'm going to turn it on its head and say, let's use it for sleep, right? And so in the morning times, I have a lot of people with insomnia. And the first thing they say is, I slept like shit last night. This day is going to suck for me. All of these different things are going to happen. And so what I want to do now is let's together use that concept of your structure with morning talk about sleep that is negative, right? And so let's go through that little piece real quick. And because that's what because if people could commit, what a lot of folks are starting to understand is you start preparing for sleep the moment you wake up, right? People don't get that. They think, I'm just going to walk into the room at the end of the night. I mean, you and I have had these conversations and we'll get into it in a second about how we work together, but let's talk about sleep for just a second. So when we wake up in the morning, our intention is not, I'm going to be the best sleeper in the world. Okay. Yeah. That's pretty freaking ridiculous, right? But our intention could be, I'm going to put myself into an environment and a timing and position that is going to allow me to have a better chance of getting a good night's sleep. Yeah. Right? Would that work out?
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, we'll get into that. I went through my sleep challenges, but I did apply these affirmations to sleep. And
great.
And it was, part of what I was committed to was I'm committed to learning how to optimize my sleep. And through that part of it, right, when you affirm a commitment, there's a great quote that a friend of mine or a colleague of mine used to say like 20 years ago. He said, people don't commit to things because they don't know how they're going to get there, and they're afraid that they don't know how, so they can't commit. Right. He said, you've got to commit first, and then the how reveals itself.
And that's exactly how sleep works, is you have to commit yourself to a few simple rules, right? Wake up at the same time every day based on your chronotype. That's not a tough one, right?
Yep.
Figure out what your sleep window is, go to bed that time. Again, these aren't super duper tough, but if we can remind ourselves in the morning time about some of these affirmations and they become so ingrained, then we don't have the situation, which is, by the way, which I hear all the time is, you know what, Michael, I was going to go to bed at 11 and I just looked down at my phone and I figured I'd open up TikTok and all of a sudden it was 2:00 in the morning, right? Wow. And it's like, and you would be shocked how many times I hear that, or Instagram or Facebook or email or whatever. And so it's getting that ingrained affirmation surrounding health benefits of things like sleep could be really important. Question for you. I mean, we've mentioned it a couple of times. You might as well get into it. How do you sleep, and how well have you slept, and what kind of challenges have you been facing or have faced?
So after 3 years of chemotherapy from the end of 2016 to the end of 2019, it was right around the 3-year mark. Something in my brain, like something snapped. And one night I slept 2 or 3 hours and I felt, I was a mess the next day.
Right.
But that went on for the next 6 months. For 6 months, I slept an average of 2 to 4 hours a night.
Yes.
And I wish I would have called you sooner. I called you closer to the end of those 6 months, 4 or 5 months in.
Yep.
I was talking to Joe Polish, and he said, hey, I was telling him how bad. He goes, how are you, Hal? I'm like, I'm a mess, dude. Like, I was suicidal. Yeah. I was contemplating suicide every day. And by the way, my life was fine. My finances were fine at the time. My book sales were great. Like, my life was fine circumstantially, but because of a lack of sleep, I wanted to die.
Yeah.
And I was telling Joe Polish, being really vulnerable with Joe, our mutual friend, and he said, have you talked to Dr. Michael Breus yet? I go, son of a bitch, I didn't even think about that, right? But when you're sleeping 2 to 4 hours a night, you're not the sharpest tool in the shed, man. My cognitive function was a mess. So anyway, Joe says, call him, and I reached out to you. You said, let's jump on a call. We had some coaching calls. You recommended some rituals. You recommended sleep supplements. You recommend, right? Like one thing you said, hey, you taking melatonin. I said, I don't like taking chemicals. I don't like taking synthetic, man-made, You said, how about melatonin that's made from grass?
Yep.
I said, that's right up my alley. And Herbatonin is the brand for anybody listening, right? And I started taking that. I started taking CBD and CBN oil.
Yep.
I take valerian root. And in fact, I'll mention this. So in the new edition of the Miracle Morning, which you held up, so I'll now hold this up. This is the updated and expanded edition with 70 pages of new content.
Right.
A big chunk of that content is a 22-page chapter called The Miracle Evening. And it's the first time I had ever developed or shared a sleep routine, and I owe a lot of that to you. Kind of convincing me that, hey, your evening routine is maybe as important, as your morning routine. And so there's an acronym for the evening routine. It's SLUMBERS, SLUMBERS. And the S is for stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime, or 2 to 4 hours before bedtime, right? So that you can digest your food and you're not laboring your body to have to digest your food while you're trying to sleep. Very often when we wake up feeling like we were hit by a truck, it's because we ate right before, half an hour before bed, and our food was being digested while we were trying to sleep, and our body didn't get to repair and rejuvenate like it's supposed to.
Exactly.
The L in slumbers, and I won't go through all of them, I'll go through the first few. It's let go of stressful thoughts and emotions. And we are typically very undisciplined at night. We allow our minds to run wild. We replay stressful events from the day, conflicts, arguments, things we didn't get done, or we anticipate and imagine and think about stressful events for the future, whether it's the state of the world and the uncertainty, right? Or it's tomorrow's busy schedule, right? But when you go to bed, when 30 minutes before bed or an hour before bed, you have a singular objective, and it is to prepare your mind and body for optimal rest, and that is it. And so it's this disciplined decision that I'm going, and I used to do this. I would imagine I was flipping the switch, and I would flip it off. It's all my stressful thoughts and emotions. Nope, not allowed anymore. And then I replace them with thoughts of love and gratitude. I think of the people that I love as I'm laying there drifting off to sleep, and I think about the things that I'm grateful for. I often thank God for my wife or my kids or my life or this pillow that I'm hugging or this comfy bed that I'm in or this safe home. I just go, and here's one of the most powerful things that I recognized. I realized this really in 2012 for the Miracle Morning initially, but it's that, think about this, everybody. Your first thought in the morning is almost always whatever the last thought was that you dwelled on before you fell asleep. And my favorite example of that is if everybody celebrated Christmas morning as a kid, and if you didn't celebrate Christmas morning, think about a morning you were excited to wake up, your first day back at school as a kid, or your first day of summer, right? But for me, it was Christmas. When I went to bed on Christmas Eve, my last thought was, oh my gosh, Santa's coming tomorrow. I can't wait. I'm so excited. It's going to be Christmas. And as soon as I became conscious in the morning, my first thought was, and my emotional state was the one I went to bed with.
Yep.
And too many of us are going to bed with stressful thoughts and stressful emotions, and we immediately wake up and our cortisol is spiked.
Yep.
Then we pick up our phone, it spikes even higher, right? So if you can dwell in peaceful, loving, grateful emotions as you go out, drift off to sleep, you wake up in that blissful state every morning.
Yep. So here's what's interesting about that is there's actually data to support that. So there's data to show that if you have positive thoughts before bed, not only do you fall asleep more quickly, but you have more positive dreams. So optimism is a good thing right before bed. You also identified something that a lot of my listeners know about all too well, which is oh crap, the lights are off and now every thought in the universe is showing up in my head. And let's be fair. People have been talking to you probably all day. You've had somebody in your ear, a kid, a spouse, a boss, what have you. And this is the one time where nobody is talking to you. And so all the thoughts come flooding in. One of the things that I like about what you talked about is there's really two types of thoughts that come in. Thoughts of your past and then thoughts of the future. Those are really the only two that I've been able to identify that come in. And one of the other things I've noticed is thoughts of the past for me have a mild depressive element to them. Like, I should have done that, or I wish I would have been here, or I wish I would have said that type of thing. And so when I'm thinking about what happened in the past, oftentimes it's not positive, it's more negative. And then when I start to forward think and think into the future, to be honest, I get a little anxious, right? I'm like, oh gosh, what's happening tomorrow? And am I prepared? Did I do the right thing? Is my son going to be okay? Is my wife going to be okay? And so thinking in the future has me anxious. And so when I'm going to sleep, I do exactly like what you talk about, which is you fill your mind with a positive thought. Sometimes I'll make a gratitude list, exactly like what you said. What are the 5 things that I'm grateful for? And I want to think about those 5 things. And I want to think about a fun time with my wife, and then a fun time with my children, and then a fun time with my parents. And by the way, by the time you get to the 3rd fun time, you're asleep, right?
That's it.
And so being able to understand that whole concept becomes incredibly, incredibly important. So number one, I'm really glad that you added that part to your book. I was going to ask you questions about it later on in the interview, but I'm glad you brought it up because I think that sleep is one of those things that we have to think about in a 24-hour cycle. Now, you've had some sleep challenges historically in the past, but where do you think sleep falls in terms of level of importance for all of the things that you're trying to get people to accomplish in the miracle morning? Where does sleep fall in that whole level of importance for you?
I mean, it can't be any less important. I mean, it's not less important than anything else, meaning it's as important, right? So I now say that like a miracle morning starts the night before. It starts with your evening routine, with your miracle evening, with your preparation, your expectation, going to bed on time. And, to your point, I know you've talked about something we're very much on the same page with, which is go to bed at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every night because your body is used to it. It's just like why, and for anyone that doesn't fully buy into that, I always imagine if you're in another time zone, right? If you've ever been to like Europe and you're used to waking up at a certain time, well, when you come back, your body wakes up at that same time. That's all the evidence that you need that, we program our mind and our body to feel tired once, at the same time and wake up at the same time with energy. And if we don't do that and we're sporadic, then our energy levels, our ability to focus, our cognitive function, it's all over the board. So yeah, sleep is as important as anything else.
Awesome. I love to hear that. So then next question would be, the title of your book is The Miracle Morning. Now, you've said on numerous occasions that you were not a morning person. I am definitely not a morning person. But for folks out there who are definitely night owls, can the miracle morning be helpful to them? And what do you say to people? Because the thoughts in your book do not require that you get up at a particular time, correct?
No. And in fact, and I'm a huge fan of Robin Sharma, who wrote the 5 a.m. Club. But at the same
I know
time,
Robin
I
well.
say, guys, this isn't the 5 a.m. Club. Like, Your miracle morning is about how you start your day. You know,
Exactly.
and if you wake up at 8 a.m. every day, great. Get up at 7:30 and do the miracle morning. In fact, these 6 practices, the S.A.V.E.R.S, can be done in as little as 6 minutes, or you could do a 30 or a 60-minute miracle morning. But there's an entire chapter in the book dedicated. It's called the 6-minute miracle morning. on busy days, how do you do 1 minute of each of the S.A.V.E.R.S to really get a maximum result? So that there's that piece of it. And then I just blanked on your question. Brain damage.
So the question was, when somebody says they're not a morning person.
Oh yes. So first thing I would say is join the club. We have, we've interviewed the Miracle Morning. Over 3.5 million people have read the Miracle Morning or bought it. I don't know how many read it, right? But we have over a million people in over 70 countries, over 100 countries, I think, doing the Miracle Morning on a regular basis. And we survey our community regularly. And so out of hundreds of thousands of people that have been surveyed, 72% of them say, I was not a morning person before I read the Miracle Morning. That's a question that's in every survey that we send out. And it's consistently right around 72.6% of Miracle Morning practitioners say they were not a morning person until they read the book. And that's the thing. I wasn't a morning person before I decided it probably would make sense to start my day in a peak mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual state to win the day. Doesn't mean I have to get up at 5 a.m., but I gotta get up a little earlier and give myself that time, that self-care, that self-optimization. So when I wrote the Miracle Morning, I wrote it from a place of imagining that my avatar is someone that does not believe they can be a morning person. So I have to hold their hand mentally, emotionally, and logistically to get them from, I hate mornings, I'm not a morning person, I've tried and it doesn't work for me, to, okay, well, this makes sense. I guess starting my day in a more effective way could change my life. Okay, I'll give it a try, to 30 days later, they've done a 30-day challenge, and then they're a lifelong Miracle Morning practitioner, right? So the entire book holds someone's hand through that. And I want to give you one really profound example. Do you know who Pat Flynn is? The Smart Passive Income? Yeah, he was in the movie with you. You guys are both stars of the Miracle Morning documentary. So Pat has one of the top podcasts in the world, and he has for probably over a decade, obviously, because I knew about it when the book came out. I wanted it on Pat's podcast. I was just a huge fan. He's an awesome dad. He's got a huge heart, very successful. And he was one of my favorite podcasters. So, I filled out forums. I tried to get on his show, never heard back. And then one day I get an email and they say, hey, Pat wants to have you on his show. Oh my gosh, it's a dream come true. So I go on his show and he starts, and I think this was before the recording started, but he basically said, Hal, I want to set the context here. I am not a morning person. I am a night owl. I get my best work done in the evenings. However, I have had so many different people tell me that your book changed their life that I want to have you on, but I want you to know where I'm coming from. So Michael, in full transparency, I as he starts the interview that way, before we even get, I go, I'm screwed. Like, how am I going to convince this guy who is making $1 million a year, running marathons, like dad of the year, right? Oh, and by the way, the clincher, he said, I don't use an alarm clock. I wake up when he had like 4 and 5-year-old children. When they come in and shake me, daddy, 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 that's how I wake up. I go, how the hell am I going to convince this guy that, no, you should set an alarm and wake up before that, right? So anyway, I just tell him about the Miracle Morning. I share, everything I can. And at the end of the interview, he says, Hal, I never thought about how impactful my mornings could be. He said, I think I'm missing out on a level of productivity by not having a morning routine. I'm committing right now to all of my listeners. I will do a 30-day Miracle Morning challenge. I will post on social media. I will document it. And at the end of that challenge, and even throughout it, all his posts, it changed his life. He is now a morning person. He does Miracle Mornings. And I believe, don't quote me, but I think he said it increases productivity by 300%. And it might have been more, but he's a data guy. So I know he measured to get to that number. So my point is, I always say that, look, if Pat Flynn, he didn't need to change anything in his life, but he became more successful, improved mental and emotional well-being, physical health, and productivity by doing his Miracle Morning.
And what I think is one of the takeaways from this is Miracle Morning can start anytime you want it to.
Totally.
It doesn't have to start at 5 a.m. like Robin Sharma talks about. And I love Robin, but I told Robin, by the way, 85% of the universe cannot do what you're asking them to do because their chronotype says it doesn't work that way. But 100% of the universe, Hal, can do what you're asking them to do. Once they figure out what is the right time for them to wake up and then start doing your sixth process, the S.A.V.E.R.S, that's what you're talking about. So I think people, they get freaked out by the word morning because I think morning has a different definition for all kinds of people. Speaking of mornings, how do you teach people how to wake up? Because I got to be honest with you, just getting people to get their ass out of bed is not easy to do. So do you have any tricks that you've learned over the years that you can maybe share with the audience? It's okay if you don't, but if you do, I'd love to help.
No, 100%. And so in the book, there is, but I'm going to go through this. I'm not going to make you read the book, but there's a chapter.
I want to hold on. Everybody needs to read the book. Okay. I just want to be clear about this. Like Hal's giving away all the secret sauce right now, but I want to be super duper clear. This book is important and you need to read it because it's going to help you become a better human. Continue, please.
And I will say this, if you're an audiobook listener, I did not read the original audiobook in 2012. I did read the updated and expanded edition that came out 6 months ago. So, so it is me on that audiobook.
I love it.
What was I going to say? So what was the question?
I was asking you about how to wake up in the morning time and if you have some particular techniques that you've been able to find.
Yeah, so in the book, I teach the 5-step snooze-proof wake-up strategy for the recovering snoozeaholics because I was one of them, right?
I love this. Recovering snoozeaholics. I got to use that one.
All right, yeah, you can use it. So step 1 is to set your intention before bed. And this is actually where I recognized that as a kid on Christmas morning, my intention before bed was I am going to wake up so excited. I'm going to run into the living room and I'm going to, check out the presents under the tree. And I realized, I asked myself, well, why couldn't I recreate that experience, that enthusiasm, that anticipation that I had on Christmas morning every single day by setting a positive, exciting intention for the morning? And so in the new book, there are the Miracle Morning Bedtime Affirmations, which are my own personal affirmations that I put in the book that I read before I go to bed. And now they're memorized. They were printed on my bedside for years. Now they're just part of who I am. But it's basically, it's using that affirmation formula bit where you commit that, hey, no matter how many hours of sleep I get tonight, my body is a miraculous organism capable of healing and regenerating, and I'm going to wake up with enthusiasm and energy to make tomorrow the best day of my life, right? That's the intention.
Awesome.
And then I go through, there's another 2 paragraphs to the affirmation, but that's the start of it. So that's the first step. Number 1 is you set your intention before bed.
It's set intention before bed. Got it. What's step number 2?
And by the way, just for people to understand the contrast, think about this. Oh my gosh, it's midnight and I have to wake up at 6. I'm only getting 6 hours of sleep and I need 7 to feel good. I'm going to feel so tired in the morning. You're setting the intention. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
That's it.
It's a sleep-fulfilling prophecy.
There you go. I like that. Number 2, move your alarm clock as far across the room as you possibly can. And this is a game changer. I was speaking at the EO New York event, entrepreneur organization, a bunch of CEOs in the room. And I was introduced by David Schnurman, I believe it is. And he said, I just want to mention something, everyone. He was introducing me, and right at the end, he goes, in case Hal doesn't tell you this, he said, one of the biggest game changers for me in the Miracle Morning is moving my alarm clock across the room. If it wasn't for doing that, I would still be reaching over half asleep to my bedside table and hitting the snooze button over and over and over again.
Yep.
And so think about that. When our alarm goes off in the morning, if it's within arm's reach, you can still be semi-unconscious, not coherent, and hit that snooze button. Right? And we've all done that where you snooze a few times and then you finally wake up. You're like, what the hell? I'm late.
Crap.
I'm late, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
But however, if your alarm clock is, for me, it's on my bathroom counter. Because the next step is I'm going to brush my teeth, wash my face, right? But it's on the bathroom counter. And that's about 20 feet away from my bed, give or take, right? So think about this. Your wake-up motivation level, right? Your wake up motivation level, or your morning motivation level, you could say, on a scale of 1 to 10, when the alarm first sounds, is like a 1. It's reach over, I'm at a 1, I want to snooze. If you get out of bed, plant both feet on the floor, stand up, now you're at like a 3, right? And then you walk into the bathroom, you're moving, you're breathing, you're at a 4 or a 5, you turn off that alarm. It is a lot easier to have the discipline to stay awake and keep going for your miracle morning when you're at a 5 out of a 1 to 10 than you're under a 1. And so step 3 is to brush your teeth. And that might sound silly, like you're telling me to brush my teeth. The point is that you have a mindless activity that keeps you awake for another 1 or 2 minutes, because every minute that you're awake, you acclimate to the idea of being awake. So now you brush your teeth, right? A minute or 2 later, you're up now. You're awake, right? And then step 4 is you rehydrate. You drink a full glass of water, because very often in the morning, we are dehydrated by default. You didn't drink water for 7 or 8 hours, and dehydration produces fatigue. And so very often, it's not that you didn't get enough sleep, it's that you need to rehydrate. So as soon as I brush my teeth, I drink a full glass of water like I was a college kid at a keg party. I just down that water. And then step 5, I'll leave for you to figure out when you read the book. But those are 4 steps that can make becoming a morning person, right, on day 1, a game changer.
Absolutely. So first of all, I love these steps, and I'm gonna actually make a little short video of just this part to put out on social, because I think this is such a great idea. And I want to add one to it, which is get 15 minutes of sunshine, which might be your number 5. I haven't looked yet. But I like sunshine.
Not, but that's my number 6 now.
Okay, good. Because sunshine is great, because when sun hits your eye, it hits a very particular cell in your eye called a melanopsin cell, and it turns off the melatonin faucet in your head. And that can be super helpful for us night owls like you and me who hate mornings. There's nothing worse than having melatonin still going in your brain and you're trying to get your ass out of bed. So having that sunshine addition is really a good one. So that's awesome. I love that. Now, we've already gone through several of the different parts of your savers, but I want to talk about silence for just a second. Tell me more about silence, because for me, if I woke up and I was silent, I might feel like I was going to go back to sleep. So do you mean be up and silent someplace other than my bed?
Yes. One of the things I talk about in the book is that you leave your bedroom as, you go through those 5 steps, you brush your teeth, right? And then you leave your bedroom. Yeah, and I liken it, if you were to stay in the bedroom, I liken it to someone who's trying to quit smoking and they keep a pack of cigarettes within arm's reach, right? It's like, it's so tempting. So if your bed is there or you're in bed, you're going to fall back asleep. So for me, I go into our family room in the front, right? And I've got my Miracle Morning chair with a table that's got my book and my journal. It's got everything there. And that's where I sit and I do my meditation. Got it. I will give you all a little kind of a preview of the meditation that I teach in the new version of the book. It was not in the original. I was not experienced enough to know what I didn't know. But I have experimented with probably almost every type of meditation that's out there. I'm certified in transcendental meditation and, contemplative meditation, and there's various types. Most of the meditations are designed to clear your mind, very often by focusing on either your breath or some visual object. There's value in that, but if you're like me and you are like, you're a person that needs to feel like you're doing something, like you're getting a benefit. And if you've ever meditated before, you're like, I'm wasting time. Nothing's happening. Or I'm doing it wrong. I'm supposed to be silent. My mind's racing. I teach in the book emotional optimization meditation. And I think I made this up. I'm not aware if anyone else taught it.
I've never heard of it.
Me combining and experimenting with various forms of meditation. And I do teach you to clear your mind there. I walk you through how to, clear your mind, calm your nervous system in the beginning. But here's how it differs from every other form of meditation that I'm familiar with. It's actually designed to optimize your mental and emotional state. So you ask yourself, you identify, and I'll often glance at my schedule for the day and I'll go, what's on the agenda today? Usually I know, but I might need to look. And I go, I got a big speech today in front of 500 people.
Right.
What is the optimal mental and emotional state that I need to be in today to thrive in that circumstance? If it's Saturday morning and I go, my kids are going to be up in an hour, What is the optimal mental and emotional state I need to be in to thrive and it might be playfulness, right? The speech might be focus, confidence, but now it's playfulness. Here's one of my favorites. If you've ever had an argument with your spouse the night before and you didn't resolve it before bed, I know you're not supposed to go to bed angry, but we've all done
Everybody
it, right?
does.
Yeah. And so I will then go, oh, my wife's going to come out of that bedroom here in the next hour, and I know she's still going to be upset. What is the optimal mental and emotional state for me to be in to greet her with love and empathy and forgiveness so that we can dissolve the conflict and move forward? So whatever it is, whatever's on your agenda for the day, you identify your optimal mental and emotional state, and then you get yourself in that state. And I walk you through a whole process in the book to do it. But essentially, one example is you can ask yourself, when was the last time I felt confident? Or the last time I felt grateful, right? Or when was the last time I felt deeply in love with my spouse, right? Whatever it is. But you get yourself in that state, and then you set your timer, whether it's for 1 minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you meditate. You mentally re-engage in that mental and emotional state. And what you're doing is you're hardwiring it into your nervous system. And now when it's time to greet your spouse or your kids or go to work or greet that client, whatever state you rehearsed that morning is now available to you throughout the day. And when you do this day after day after day after day after day, you can literally go from being depressed to blissful by re-engineering and reprogramming that optimal state day after day after day after day. So the cool thing about silence is there's no wrong or right way to do it, and there are infinite ways. Some days, by the way, I'll give one last quick example. I will just give myself permission to have no responsibility for 10 minutes. And I'll set my timer for 10 minutes.
That sounds
and this
awesome.
is my favorite form of silence, honestly. And it doesn't matter if I think something, if I don't think something. If I'm just like, I'm a carefree whatever. Doesn't matter. It's just no responsibility, blissful whatever. Nothing I can think is wrong. Nothing I could say is wrong. Nothing I could feel is wrong. I'm totally free. And I call that my true freedom meditation. And that's my favorite one.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I too had massive problems meditating. I actually had to find a tool to help me. So I actually wear a headband. It's called a Muse, M-U-S-E. People have heard me talk about it infinitely because I was the guy who would kind of peek one eye open and say, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Yeah. And what's nice about this Muse is it gives you auditory feedback. The volume gets lower as you get closer to an alpha state. And then when you hit an alpha state, because it's measuring your brain waves, it actually has birds that kind of come on to the music. So it's kind of a cool way to get feedback and things like that. But to be fair, it's a little on the pricey side. So for folks out there, I would tell people, try your methodologies first because number one, they're free.
That's right.
And they work. So I'm excited for people to have an opportunity to figure some of that out. One thing I'm curious about, and I want to get more of a definition from you. What is the difference between scribing and journaling to you, or are they somewhat similar?
There's no difference except that journaling is a form of scribing, right?
Oh, okay.
Free writing is another form of scribing, but it's really just journaling. In fact, I mean, it literally, that's what I had said. It was journaling, and then when I needed to make an acronym, I was like, true story. Initially, when I was writing the book and meditation became silence, the rest all stayed the same. Affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and journaling. And I initially had the S.A.V.E.R. plus J model for personal development. And it irked me so bad.
Right, that you
I
had
go, there's got to be another word for journaling. And it became scribing. But yeah, it could be free writing. It could be writing out your goals. But it could also be writing a book. For me, the interesting part is I wrote The Miracle Morning during an extended scribing process every morning for 3 years, right? I write letters to my kids sometimes during my scribing process. I write a Post-it note to my wife almost every single morning that I put on a glass of hot lemon water that I make her every morning. Acts of service is her love language. Words of affirmation, not so much, but who doesn't love a love note from their spouse? And I'll tell you, she now has all of my Post-it notes on an entire kitchen cupboard, like on the inside of it. We're running out of room for them, but that all came because that scribing practice.
I love that. What a unique way to do things. So So you can customize your miracle morning, right? You're
Yes.
giving everybody a bunch of tools to have in their tool belt and a semblance of structure and order, but you can in fact customize things. And then you also mentioned briefly, but I want to maybe do a quick double tap. People have got busy lives, busy mornings. You mentioned that there's a 6-minute miracle morning, then there's a 20, and then there's a 60-minute. Tell us a little bit about those. So like if I'm traveling and I've got to be somewhere for a week, can I do my 6-minute on the road, and then when I get home, do my 20 or my 60-minute, and will I still kind of be within the realm of success?
Absolutely. So the way the 6-minute miracle morning came to be is it's not hyperbole. It's not like a cutesy thing I thought would be good for the book. It was literally, I, like most of us, have an all or nothing mentality around a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we plan on, I like 40 minutes for my workout, but I'm running late. I'm only going to get 15. Well, I just won't do it. And we end up doing nothing instead of something because we're idealistic in that way. And so for me, I just noticed myself when I was doing my miracle morning the first, I don't know, probably 6 months or so, that if I ever did, I liked an hour. I wanted a full hour. I started with 30 minutes, then I went to an hour, and I did not like less than an hour. In fact, I would like to go longer on the weekends. I would do 2 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday. It was this long, really nice, non-rush miracle morning. And one day, I remember I had to leave in 15 minutes. And I'm like, I can't do a miracle morning. I only have 15 minutes. I need an hour. And then something, maybe call it God, was like, hey, dude, why don't you just do like a minute, just do a short one? And I was like, oh, six savers. What if I just set my timer for 60 seconds? And I did 60 seconds of silence, and I just quieted my mind. Maybe I said a quick prayer. But it just was peaceful. And then I pulled out my affirmations, and I just read, the first one, the most important thing in my life, what I was committed to, why it was a must, and what I was going to do. And I reminded myself of that. Then I visualized myself going where I was going today and showing up in an optimal state. I mentally rehearsed being at my best for 60 seconds. Then I stood up and did 60 seconds of jumping jacks. Right now the heart rate's going. Okay, I'm up, I'm awake, let's go. Then I pulled out the book I'm reading, and I read 1 page in 1 minute. Then I pulled out my journal, and I wrote down one thing I was grateful for. I put my hand on my heart, closed my eyes, and I felt it for 30 seconds. 6 minutes later, Michael, I went, whoa, I did 1/10 of the normal time that I usually do, and I feel like I got 70 to 80% of the benefit.
Wow.
Right? And that's where I was like, that's a thing. And immediately I did like a video blog on the 6-minute miracle morning. And, and yeah, to your point, when I travel, I often do a shorter miracle morning. And I want to mention one other thing. For those that aren't aware, we have an app now. So we spent years developing the ultimate all-in-one miracle morning app because it was the most requested thing by the miracle morning community. Because they would say, I've got a meditation app, an affirmations app, a visualization app, a journaling, an exercise. Like they're using 6 apps to do their miracle morning. And that's why for us, we're like, how do we make this? How can we make 6 apps in one? So anyway, long story short, you can download it. There's a free version with a built-in journal, affirmations creator. And
where can they find it?
The App Store or the Google Play Store, right? So it's both platforms.
And it's under Miracle Morning?
Yeah, it's called Miracle Morning Routine, but if you search Miracle Morning, it's a yellow app. But the easiest way to do Miracle Morning is you can log in, even the free version. If you want to upload to the premium version, you get hundreds of guided Miracle Morning audio practices. But in the free version, you literally click play, and there's a 13-minute S.A.V.E.R.S 101 guided audio where you wake up tomorrow 15 minutes earlier, download the app, click play, and it will guide you through an entire Miracle Morning in 13 minutes.
That sounds fantastic. So I want everybody out there who's listening right now, aside from hitting subscribe and finding Hal on all those cool different places where you can, the Miracle Morning, go to the App Store, download this app, and I want you to try it for 30 days, okay? And then I want you to send me an email. I'll send them all over to Hal too, and we'll figure some stuff out, and we'll learn more about what you guys are doing. But this is the challenge, is I want you to go out there, get the app, download it, and see how it affects your personal miracle morning. I love that. Hal, if people want to find out more about you, I mean, I know you're all over the place, but where are some spots where you've got some new stuff? This app sounds like a great idea. Other things that people can find?
Yeah, I always tell everybody go to miraclemorning.com. It is the hub for everything Miracle Morning.
Perfect.
So obviously there's links to buy the book wherever you want to buy your books. You can, the link to download the app for free is there. And we mentioned this, but the Miracle Morning movie is, it's a must-watch documentary. Michael's in it. Obviously I'm in it. Mel Robbins, Brendan Burchard, Layla Ali, Dave Asprey, Joe Polish. I mean, it's got a who's who of influencers talking about their morning routines. And you can watch it free at miraclemorning.com. So I encourage everybody to go there, and that's the best place to start.
Yeah, and you'll see me looking 10 years younger.
Yeah, there you go.
Because that was a while ago.
You actually look exactly the same, dude.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So look, everyone, this is what it's about, is sharing ideas with special people out there who've got things that can be helpful and healthful to you. This is such a great book. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And this is a way to have a very unique, personalized miracle morning for yourself. And remember, your miracle morning starts off your miracle day, and it's awesome. I really love this. Hal, I love you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show, bro. It's always great to have you here. And thank you also for sharing about our special time together and working together. That was also unnecessary but valuable for everyone out there to hear. And just thank you for everything that you've done. One last time, if people want to find you, where can they go?
miraclemorning.com, everybody. I hope to see you there.
All right, everyone. This is Dr. Michael Breus, the Sleep Doctor, wishing everybody sweet dreams and a miracle morning the next day.